This is Robert Grossman, and today I'm talking with Sherry Sledge, owner of the Bodywork Center for Perfect Health in Fountain Hills, Arizona. Sherry, who are you and what do you do?
I am a licensed massage therapist, and in addition to that, I'm a certified educator for Dr. Deepak Chopra in mind-body medicine and the Ayurvedic healthcare system. I have a prior career in the corporate world, and I'm also a Heartmath provider. Mainly, I deal with people and educating them on how to be better balanced, focused, out of pain, and healthier. And it could be with their physical structure, with posture. It could be with their mental things, a lot of times with stress and things like that. Teaching people how to deal with different areas of their life, the food choices and things like that. The interesting part is I was in the corporate world for so long, and then I got sick and went into the health field. And as I got into it to heal myself, I kept finding out all these different levels of things that we're not educated on in this particular country, and then I find out that they work.
You moved from the corporate world into the world of wellness and healing. And in fact, I think you spent more than 20 years in a senior management position at a national brokerage company.
Yes, I did.
You were deep in the corporate world. Why didn't you just stay there and rake in the cash?
I actually thought I would be there till I was 90. I loved what I did, but I got sick. I took a sabbatical to try to heal myself. And that took me on a whole other journey that I didn't count on. I didn't even know it was there to take. And the doors kept opening, and I felt that I always liked being of service to people, to helping people in different ways. And this was another way that I could help people, but a much more personal level with their well-being and their health. To me, that seemed more important than the other.
So what happened to you?
It took me a while to figure it all out, but it started with actually mercury poisoning, which I had in my mouth and in a root canal. And it was leaking. And dentists, I had a lot of dentists that said, oh, you're crazy. And I actually started losing my memory abilities. And then that started affecting my thyroid and my adrenals and my whole immune system. And then I ended up with more allergies, and it was pretty much going downhill. I had a dream for probably 10 years about pulling out my front tooth. And in the dream, it was very real, and it was just like, okay, get this out, and it's okay. Finally, when that happened, and I got a dentist that said, oh, this is, that he understood the problem. He was a holistic dentist, which is very difficult to find. And we took it out. The dream stopped. I did some chelation therapy to help cleanse the system from all the different metals, and my memory issues were gone. And then I had to start repairing the thyroid and the adrenals and the other damage that it had done. So that's kind of the original journey that got me into the medical field. And while I was on my sabbatical, I decided to go to massage school because I was sort of bored. I found that working with the body is a marvelous thing, that the different things that you can help people with. So that kind of kept me on that tour. So I ended up getting involved with Deepak Chopra in Ayurvedic and mind-body medicine, which I just love, and I've been to India probably 11 times. And the Heartmath Institute, which is going from chaos to coherence in the nervous system and taking control of that. So those are all things that just fascinated me, and they all work.
What is Heartmath?
Heartmath is learning to go from chaos to coherence in a matter of seconds. It's like if all of a sudden you show up in a dark alley and somebody's shooting at you, you're going to be in chaos. Your whole system it wants to run. It wants to get out of there. But when you learn how to go into your heart, shift that, and you do have the power to do that, and you can do it within seconds. You can go into coherence and make better decisions. When you're in chaos, you make poor decisions. If you try to shoot at something, your aim is not as good because your focus and you're just not aligned that well. Well, if you can go into the coherence aspect of it, you will make a better decision and handle the situation better. Look at all of us in our lives. Every day we have these little mini chaos. The car doesn't start, or something breaks, or, there's just so many little things that sometimes we make into a bigger crisis. We go into chaos. But as soon as you catch yourself in chaos, you can be trained by using the Heartmath within seconds to come out of it. to go into coherence.
You've been in India 11 times, and you're planning to go again this year, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
What have you learned in India? Why do you keep going back?
It's a fascinating country. They've been doing the Panchakarma there for thousands of years.
What is Panchakarma?
Panchakarma means 5 actions of healing.
What are those 5 actions?
Well, they'll involve massage, they'll involve oils and herbs and different body therapies, steam. It's all the different ways that they can get the body to flush the toxins, reduce the toxin levels, and then after they have done that, then they start using different oils and different herbs to then enrich and rejuvenate the body. It's an unbelievable transition. The first time I went, I had 21 days straight of it. I found that girl that was in me that was 18, but I thought she was long gone. She wasn't. She was still there, and it was amazing to reconnect with that whole sensation, that whole feeling, meaning my body had purified itself and shifted. So that's why I need to go back to keep bringing her back, because I always clog it up with life. I saw people with MS come in there in wheelchairs and hadn't walked in a long time, and the gal was jumping over the railing on the front porch, and, she was fine. I saw a young man that had been hit by a train, and Western medicine had said that he was a vegetable, just to, take him home. There's nothing they could do. And they brought him there, and before I left, he was up walking around with his father, and he could communicate. I just cried. A young man, 19 years old, that was supposed to be a vegetable, but he could speak, and he could understand what you were saying, so he was not a vegetable. So Western medicine was wrong in that incident. Those things are available, but we have to be receptive to those type of things, too, because if you're not, it doesn't matter. The body, I don't think, will allow it to work.
What's required to go through that? Is it rigorous? Is it painful? Is it extremely difficult?
Most of it's pretty enjoyable. I had my own, I guess you call it bungalow, and there was a room that the massage table was in there, and I had 5 different doctors reading my pulses, and we went over what the treatment should be, and then the doctors would come by 3 times a day, and they gave these different herbs, and they had gardens and different things where they grew them, and they would pick them and cook them, and I would have to drink almost everything that opened got some kind of herb in it. But then they mix it in the oil, and every day I had 2 therapists that gave me a synchronized massage. They had herbal oils and different things going over the head. I was mostly on a very bland, vegetarian diet. I didn't do anything. I sat and meditated. I walked down by the river. They didn't want me doing any strenuous things, nothing. And I lost 2 dress sizes and felt great and did nothing. Sometimes, now some people would get a little more sick in the beginning when they were detoxing, and some people got a skin rash for a while, and then all that went away. Everybody detoxes a little differently because what's going on with them is a little different.
A part of your work is about relieving chronic pain patterns, Sherry. Can you tell me what kind of patterns you're talking about when you discuss chronic pain patterns? I mean, how can a pattern cause pain?
Yes, I'll share that with you. Going to an airport or any place where there are a lot of people walking around, I can start looking at people and pretty much tell, if I went up to them, I could say, you have this kind of pain or that kind of pain. And it stems from the fact that our skeletal system should be such, like my grandmother used to say, it's like you're on a string, and you're dangling. And then you set the feet on the floor, and you should be nice and straight, and everything is balanced. Well, if you are in that position, you probably won't have hardly any body pain, ever. Because your skeletal system is holding you up, because you sit proper, you walk proper, you stand proper. But as soon as you deviate from that, if one hip rolls a little more forward, one shoulder starts coming down, you put more weight on the ball of your feet, and your body comes forward, or the head starts coming forward, you do too much computer work on that, and you're getting that chicken turkey neck, that's coming forward, I will guarantee you're going to have pain.
What makes it chronic? Why doesn't that go away as soon as I get up from my chair where I'm working on the computer? How can that get locked into the body?
Well, in the beginning, the body deals with it. But when it becomes something that you're doing consistently, let's say your head is going forward, you got a 20-pound ball. So if I have my arm bent and my hand bent and I'm holding a 20-pound ball, I can hold it pretty good when my arm is bent and I have my hand back and the ball is up there. But as soon as I start moving my hand forward like I'm going to drop the ball, but I have to still hold it, I'm not going to be able to do that very long because the muscles on the top side of my arm are going to scream. The muscles will elongate and then they lock. They're trying to stop you from ripping them. So they lock long. And when they lock long, they get very acidy, and pretty soon they stay that way. They don't unlock. And the pattern begins. When you sit down at the computer, you already got those muscles locked long, and now you're still forcing them to do more. Mm-hmm. And they'll start screaming. And the muscles on the front side of your neck are shortening, the ones that you don't think about that much, that those muscles are shortening and actually getting a little tougher. So now you got two issues. One that's stretched out and exhausted and locked long, and one that's shortened and thick and tight. So you have to compensate both sides. Once you understand that, you can pretty much monitor your own health. When I originally went into this work, I had a lot of chronic pain in my 40s. I had a lot of pain. I had 2 car accidents and a boating accident, and none of them were handled right. I had a chronic whiplash I didn't know I had, but eventually I found out, and I got it corrected. And it took a while because by then it had been kind of there solidly put in that position. It just thought that was normal. But it wasn't, I found out. Mm-hmm. And you can get rid of it. You can change it. But most people aren't educated on how to look for it. People with low back pain a lot of times will have tight quads, and then their hamstrings and their calves hurt, but it's actually starting from your quads. Mm-hmm. But everybody's stretching the back. The back is screaming because they're stretched long, and they're stretched long because the quads now have shortened. When they shorten, they attach, at the top of your hip, and they'll start pulling that hip forward. So when that hip goes forward, everything behind it, the hamstring and the calves, all has to stretch. We're covered with fascia. Underneath all the skin and around the muscles and the muscle cords is this fine webbing called fascia. And it is tough. 1 square inch of constricted fascia can be 2,000 pounds of pressure, and it can create a lot of pain. Where I saw this is when I dealt with elderly people that have been in a home, and they've been kept in one position in bed for a long time. And you go to move their arm or something, and they start screaming, oh, no. Well, what's happened is that person has not had enough movement, and the fascia got hardened. And that fascia can be broken open, but it is painful to do it. But the reality is if somebody would have massaged them 5 or 10 minutes a day every day, it never would have happened.
Where do people hear about you? Where do your new customers come from?
One of the things is I love to talk, and I love to share with people. In the beginning, when my husband retired and I had already gotten involved with massage in California, he wanted to go to Florida for a while. And so I moved there. I didn't know anyone, no one. And I saw this little house that had been a retail on a busy street, and it was pretty inexpensive. And I thought, well, I'll get that, and I'll open a business there, a bodywork business. If it doesn't work, I'll turn it into what I used to do. So I did. I got assigned, did all the stuff, and I did some marketing. They had a local TV there called Blab, and I got in with a gal, and I'd go on there once a week and do interviews and show modalities and educate people. And then I would go out to, they had some big law offices or offices where people worked, and I originally went in and said, I'll do free massages at lunch. And then they let me talk, educated people. I could be standing in the line at the movie theater, and a lot of times I would wear my shirt that had my name on it, what I did, and people would say something. And I actually booked appointments in line in the movie theater. I could see where people had issues, or, and I could start talking to them in an intelligent way that they could get, that made sense. So it was really a lot of that initially. You got to go out and talk with people, and that was before internet, so the internet wasn't a big thing at that point. In fact, I didn't even have a website till after I think I was in Arizona. And I went to different doctors and chiropractors and talked with them. kind of explained what I did, because a lot of them didn't even understand that, that a lot of the work. And then I started getting referrals from them. I did some, flyers and coupons and mailers and some, different things like that. But a lot of it really came down to getting out there and talking to people and telling them, because most people think, oh, just a massage. Well, there's a lot of different things that massage can do. What do you have that you might want to get rid of or get changed?
What was the biggest mistake you made building your business?
Well, probably not getting on the computer sooner, putting it off. See, even in the corporate world, I had always sent my secretaries to go learn all that stuff. And that was probably the biggest mistake there. Is I should have learned it in the beginning, because I know I would have been fascinated with it from a different level, and I would have, I'm sure, used it a lot more to my advantage. That, I think, one of the biggest ones that probably could have generated a lot more income.
What's the one best piece of advice you would offer to somebody who's just getting started in their own wellness business?
I would suggest that they really analyze themselves and how they come across. And if I'm going to walk into their office or their business, how are they going to be different? How are they going to make me remember them? How are they going to make me want to come back? What can I do for the client to make it a great experience, to educate and to help them? Because I've gone into places and they don't even want to know anything about you, really. Just go in the room and get on the table. So how do you make that connection with people? Mm-hmm. And I always, when people come in, I ask a lot of questions. And then I want to know, what's going on? What's your worst thing today? I find out about them. So I'm interested in them. I make them feel it's their time with me. And I don't do the same therapy on everybody. I mean, somebody has the same massage and they do it on everyone. Well, if you come in, depending on what's going on with you and what you want to accomplish for that day, because you may have certain issues, but say, I don't want to deal with those today, I want to deal with this. So then that's what we would do. Be interested in them, and they'll know it. You know when somebody's interested in you.
What's the one piece of advice you would give to somebody who's listening to you today and they just want to feel better?
If I only had one thing, I would caution them on their mind chatter, to become totally aware of what goes on with their mind, because a lot of our illness and our soreness starts there, or starts in the body and gets stuck in the head. Meaning, everything that you think in the day, do you want that written in the newspaper tomorrow? If not, then when you have those thoughts, just notice it and put things in there like, I am blessed, I am thankful, I am loved. And what happens is all those negative things that go through your mind, and we all have them. I should have done this, I didn't do that, oh my gosh, and all this different stuff. When you let go of that, the body can relax. The body can be freer. And then you can put attention on other things, because you're not coming from stress and from mental fatigue. Sounds kind of unusual, but I found that most people have a lot of chatter. We have 60,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are the same every day. So if you want to change your life, you have to change your thoughts. But you can't scold yourself for saying, oh, I have those thoughts again. Why? You just notice that they're there and put your attention on things like, I am blessed, I am loved, I am grateful. Just something simple. Just 3 or 4 simple things. And it starts to shift your whole physiology. So if I could only make one difference, that would be it. That would be the start.
Sherry, for all the people who want to get some of these therapies for themselves, or they'd like to talk to you about their own issues, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, they can always call. I enjoy talking with people. It's the area code 480-816-3900. And that's Bodyworks Center for Perfect Health.
Do you have a website where people can learn more?
Bodyworkscenter.net.
Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up the interview?
I do occasionally. I do classes too. I'll do small groups and small classes. So if people, have a group of 4 or 5 that they might want some classes, we can do that.
Sherry, thank you very much for the time you spent and for sharing all your stories and your insights.
My pleasure. I enjoy sharing.
If you're a wellness business owner or manager, a free 30-minute tune-up call with Robert could be a great experience for you. Your business can be more fun, more effective, and more profitable. Just go to wellnessbusinesstune-up.com to get started now, or call us at 800-430-1567.